Stop. Think carefully about this. What if I told you the thing that makes someone obsess over you is not love, not kindness, not generosity, not devotion? It is something far darker, something most people run from. You've been taught to give more attention, more affection, more availability. But here's the truth. The more you give, the faster you disappear. The human mind does not chase abundance. It hungers for what it cannot have. And the moment you understand this, everything changes. Pause for a moment and let that sink in. Every story of obsession, every great tragedy, every forbidden desire, every sleepless night is not built on love freely given. It is built on denial, on scarcity, on absence. Think of the unanswered call, the text that never came, the glance that almost lingered. That is what claws into memory. That is what keeps a mind awake at night. And here's the brutal part. Most people will never grasp this. They will smother, they will explain, they will chase, and in doing so they erase themselves. But you're about to learn why the exact opposite creates power. If you are ready to step beyond the illusions you've been fed, stay with me. Because here, on Curiosity to Wisdom, we do not play the game of affection. We play the game of power. And the next few minutes will reveal a truth so sharp, so counterintuitive, that once you hear it, you will never see human connection the same way again. You've been lied to since the beginning, conditioned by culture, by stories, by the weak who worship comfort. They told you obsession is built through kindness, through generosity, through being endlessly present. But the human mind does not fixate on abundance. It fixates on scarcity. We do not chase what is freely given. We crave what is withheld, rationed, denied. Consider the forbidden fruit in every myth, the unanswered letter that gnaws at the memory, the closed door that slams just as you reach for the handle. That is where obsession begins, in absence, not presence. It is in denial, not generosity, that the seed is planted. The average person does not understand this. They drown others with attention, thinking more affection will secure permanence. They explain themselves endlessly, thinking clarity will secure loyalty. They defend themselves, thinking justification will earn respect. But the paradox is brutal and merciless. The more you give, the less you are valued. The more available you are, the more forgettable you become. The moment someone knows they can have you whenever they please, they stop needing you. The moment you become predictable, you become invisible. True obsession is not born in comfort. It is born in tension. It lives in the carefully orchestrated moments where you appear only to withdraw, where you give only to take back, where you hint at closeness and then snatch it away. This is not cruelty. It is design. The human brain is wired to chase the unfinished, to hunger for what it cannot fully possess. The pulse of desire comes not from satisfaction, but from the ache of denial. If you want to make someone obsess over you, never drown them in abundance. Starve them strategically. Give less than they expect. Break the rhythm they think they can predict. Be warm one moment, cold the next. Inconsistency breeds curiosity, and curiosity is the fertile seed of obsession. Remember this law. Love dies of exposure. Obsession thrives in uncertainty. The masses will resist this truth because it exposes their weakness. They want to be adored, not remembered. But you are not here to be adored. You are here to dominate thought, to live not in constant presence, but in the shadows of absence, where your image grows larger than life. His law of scarcity. Watch the average person closely, and you will see their desperation drip from every action. They respond instantly to every message, as if a delayed reply might cost them their worth. They rearrange their schedules to accommodate others, signaling that their time is cheap and their priorities negotiable. They overshare, flooding conversations with unnecessary details in a frantic attempt to be known. They smother with constant check-ins, overcompensating with words and gestures, and worst of all, they defend themselves at every turn, explaining, justifying, pleading, thinking this endless stream of reassurance will buy them security. It never does. Their strategy is rooted in fear. Fear of rejection, fear of disrespect, fear of losing whatever sliver of attention they manage to capture. And fear always reveals itself in overcompensation. It is the weak man's reflex, the panicked attempt to close every gap before someone else can exploit it. But here is the cruel truth you must accept. The moment you position yourself as constantly available, you strip yourself of mystery. The moment you explain too much, you make yourself predictable. The moment you justify, you make yourself small. And no one obsesses over the predictable, the available, the small. Obsession lives in contrast, not in transparency. It is born in tension, between presence and absence, warmth and cold, certainty and doubt. The flaw of the average person is their compulsion to be understood. They cannot bear the thought of being misread, so they explain. They cannot endure silence, so they overtalk. They cannot withstand absence, so they cling. But understand this. The power player's advantage is to remain slightly beyond comprehension. You must become the figure others cannot quite decode, an enigma that resists full translation, a puzzle never solved, a story never finished. That is what the mind replay is at night, obsessively searching for missing pieces. Attention, given too easily, dies quickly, like fire smothered by excess air. But when you pull away, when you leave space, when you deny clarity, that is when the oxygen rushes in and the flame roars uncontrollably. Never explain yourself, never justify, never defend. Every word you subtract increases your value. Every silence you hold sharpens into a blade. Machiavelli. To wield this knowledge with precision, you must anchor yourself not in the fleeting advice of the modern weak, but in the eternal wisdom of those who dissected human nature centuries ago. Niccolò Machiavelli understood the truth when he wrote of princes who maintained power not through love, but through fear and fascination, two forces stronger, more binding, more unforgettable than affection. Robert Greene later sharpened this truth in his Laws of Power, revealing how absence increases honor, how mystery multiplies influence, how calculated distance magnifies desire. These men did not write for the fragile heart seeking comfort. They wrote for those who understood that control is sharper than kindness, and that survival belongs to the strategist, not the sentimental. But beyond philosophy and strategy, even the cold eye of neuroscience betrays the same truth. The human brain is addicted not to completion, but to incompletion. Dopamine does not spike when the reward arrives. It surges when the reward is almost within reach, when anticipation dangles it just out of grasp. Satisfaction kills obsession. It ends the chase. But anticipation, denial, the torment of being close yet never complete, this is the architecture of craving. You are not creating joy in another. Joy fades. You are engineering a cycle of hunger, a loop that never ends. This is why gamblers cannot leave the slot machine after an almost win. This is why lovers cannot stop replaying the message that hinted at confession but never revealed it, or the look that almost lingered long enough to become a promise. The unfinished moment loops endlessly in the mind, demanding replay, demanding interpretation. That loop is obsession. And if you wish to make anyone obsess over you, you must become precisely that. The unfinished story, the unsolved equation, the unanswered question that gnaws at them when silence falls. Anchor yourself not in desperate approval, not in softness, not in the illusion that constant giving secures loyalty. Anchor yourself in the ruthless principles of scarcity, anticipation, and denial. You are no longer playing the shallow game of affection. You are stepping into the dark psychology of control, And once you stand on this ground, you will never return to the weakness of begging for attention. You will command it without speaking a word. His laws of anticipation. Your first actionable command is this: disrupt predictability. Understand this law deeply. Obsession cannot survive inside routine. Routine is the coffin of fascination. When your actions can be charted, when your responses follow a script, when your presence becomes a given, the human mind relaxes. And relaxation is the death of intrigue. If you always answer messages within minutes, they no longer wait for you. If you always say yes, they no longer value your agreement. If you always show warmth, they no longer fear the cold. Predictability is not comfort, it is erosion. It slowly erases your impact until you are just another background character in the theater of their life. To trigger obsession, you must break rhythm. You must become what the mind cannot map. Respond instantly once, then wait hours another time, and occasionally say nothing at all. Give them laughter today, then cut them with silence tomorrow. Be vivid and warm one night, then composed and unreachable the next. This unpredictability unsettles the human brain because the mind aches for patterns. It craves predictability as a drug. When it cannot find the pattern, it spirals, and when it spirals, it obsesses. This technique is not cruelty. It is control. You are not playing recklessly with emotions. You are conducting them like a surgeon's hand, steady and precise. Think of yourself as a master of chess, withholding your next move while your opponent leans forward in anxious anticipation. Their thoughts become consumed not by what you did, but by what you might do next. And in that gap, obsession is born. Your absence becomes more powerful than another's presence. Why? Because they are no longer engaging with you. They are engaging with the idea of you. And an idea, once lodged in the mind, is more intoxicating than flesh and blood. It is perfect, ungraspable, infinite. Practice this disruption until it flows like instinct. The moment they believe they know you is the moment you retreat. The second they anticipate warmth, you deliver cold. The rhythmless presence is not weakness. It is the heartbeat of obsession. Never give them the comfort of certainty. Leave them in the cold, and they will set themselves on fire just to feel your warmth. The second technique is what I call the scarcity frame. This law is merciless, yet undeniable. Humans instinctively value what is rare, what feels limited, what cannot be grasped without effort. Abundance breeds contempt, while scarcity breeds desire. If you are always available, you are invisible. If you are difficult to access, your value multiplies without you lifting a finger. This is the paradox most people will never grasp. They give more to be loved, only to become disposable. The power player gives less and becomes unforgettable. You must begin to frame yourself as scarce. Your time must feel limited, your attention must feel precious, and your presence must feel rare. This does not mean vanishing nor isolating yourself from the world. It means training others to believe, subconsciously, that access to you is not assumed. It must be earned. Cancel plans strategically, not to inconvenience, but to assert the unspoken reality that your time bends for no one. Leave messages unanswered, and when you finally reply, let the weight of your words justify the silence. Speak less in groups, but let every sentence you deliver cut through the noise like a blade. The less you give, the more they crave. The scarcity frame is not just psychology, it is branding. Consider luxury. People do not obsess over what is found in every store, on every corner, in endless supply. They obsess over what is limited edition, what sells out instantly, what cannot be bought casually. The human mind does not fall in love with abundance. It falls into obsession with rarity. Your presence must become that rare commodity. Do not flood the market of their attention. Ration it and watch the price rise. And while you're here, if you want more than just the shallow tricks people play, If you want to master the deep laws of psychology that etch your presence permanently into the minds of others, then subscribe to curiosity to wisdom, because the world will never hand you power freely. You must take it, piece by piece, moment by moment, through strategy, silence, and scarcity. This is his law of scarcity. The human brain is cursed with a compulsion. It is wired to finish what is incomplete. It cannot bear open loops. It cannot rest with unanswered questions. When you leave a sentence unfinished, when you reveal only half of a truth, when you tell a story but cut it short, your silence becomes louder than the longest speech. This is the incomplete story technique, and it is one of the sharpest weapons in the arsenal of obsession. The weak reveal everything, believing honesty secures closeness. They hand out their secrets like cheap currency, thinking transparency earns trust. But what is fully revealed becomes fully consumed. What is fully consumed loses flavor. Never reveal everything. Hint, suggest, allude, but never hand over the complete picture. Tell them only fragments of your past, carefully selected pieces that form no full puzzle. Let them know enough to feel close, but never enough to feel complete. When you walk away, their mind will claw at the gaps, replaying conversations, wondering about the truths withheld. This is not accident. It is design. Think of the books abandoned mid-story, the shows that ended on a cliffhanger, the mysteries left unsolved. They linger in the mind for years, longer than the stories that tied every ribbon neatly. Why? Because the human brain abhors incompletion. It aches to fill gaps, to finish loops, to resolve the unresolved, and in that ache, obsession festers. Apply this ruthlessly. When they ask questions, do not answer fully. When they expect details, give fragments. When they want closure, deny it. Let them wonder about what you didn't say, about the stories you left unfinished, about the silences that weighed heavier than words. Each unanswered question becomes a hook lodged deep in their subconscious. It gnaws, it repeats, it demands their attention. The average person fears being misunderstood. They rush to clarify, to explain, to defend. But you must remember, the power player thrives in misunderstanding. Let them misunderstand. Let them wrestle with fragments. Let them replay your words endlessly, searching for meaning that will never come. Never give the world the full script of who you are. Become a riddle they cannot solve, a story without an ending, a silence that echoes louder than speech. Every incomplete answer becomes another lock in the prison of obsession you build inside their mind. Now imagine these laws in motion, not as abstract philosophy, but as ruthless, tangible strategy. At work, you are not the chatterbox filling the air with meaningless noise. You are the colleague who speaks rarely, but when you do, your words land with surgical precision. Your silence forces others to lean in. Your restraint builds anticipation. Every contribution feels heavier because it is scarce. You do not compete for attention. You allow attention to compete for you. And soon, authority is not something you ask for. It is something others unconsciously grant because your voice has become synonymous with weight. In love, you are not the ever-present comforter who smothers with affection. You are the intoxicating presence that surges like fire, warm, bright, unforgettable, and then disappears into the cold. That withdrawal is not absence. It is strategy. It leaves them gasping, reeling, craving the warmth you once gave. Others may flood them with affection, but abundance breeds blindness. Your scarcity, your silence, your refusal to be fully possessed, these haunt more than 1,000 declarations of love. You do not exist as a partner alone. You exist as a fixation, replayed endlessly in the quiet hours of the night. In social settings, you are the figure who controls the room not by volume, but by presence. You are the quiet shadow leaning against the wall, saying little, but whose rare glance across the crowd speaks louder than speeches. The laughter of others fades, because mystery speaks in frequencies louder than noise. They cannot stop asking themselves, what is he thinking? Why does he not need to prove himself like the rest? And in that wondering, you rise above them without effort. The law is universal. At work, your precision builds authority. In love, your absence carves itself deeper than another's affection. Among peers, your mystique turns silence into power. The contexts differ, but the psychology remains constant. The scarce, the unfinished, the unpredictable will always dominate thought. They try to complete you like a puzzle, but the pieces never fit, and the unsolved image becomes their obsession. This is how you conquer minds without ever raising your voice. His law of universality. But hear this clearly. Power is never soft. It is never gentle, never given, never painless. If you dare to wield these laws, you must be prepared to face the consequences. Obsession is not love. It is not harmony. It is not the warm embrace of comfort. Obsession is a storm. It consumes, it unsettles, it destroys balance in the mind of those caught in its grip. And storms always leave debris. Some will hate you for the hold you place on them. They will resent the way your silence echoes louder than another's words. They will despise the fact that they cannot escape you, that their thoughts orbit you against their will. Others will cling tighter, desperate for the fragments you withhold, pleading for the drops of attention you ration. And both, the resenter and the clinger, are proof that the laws are working. This is why the weak cannot use these laws. The weak crave approval. They want to be liked by everyone, adored universally, accepted without conflict. But universal love is a cage, and those who pursue it will never hold power. If you desire true psychological dominance, you must shed that weakness. You must accept the brutal truth. You cannot command obsession and be adored at the same time. Some will label you cold. Others will whisper that you are ruthless, manipulative, even cruel. Let them. Their opinions are irrelevant, their words powerless. For the one thing that matters cannot be denied. You will be unforgettable. Understand this. People forget kindness. They forget warmth. They forget those who gave too much. But they never forget the wound that would not heal, the question that went unanswered, the cliffhanger that denied them resolution. You become not a memory, but a haunting, not a chapter, but a shadow etched into the mind. This is the price of true psychological power. You do not walk away adored, you walk away immortalized. Never forget, softness dissolves into nothing, like water vanishing into sand. Scarcity, silence, and ruthlessness carve themselves into eternity. And eternity, not affection, is the true throne of power. By now you see the outline of the transformation taking shape. You are no longer the one who waits silently, hoping to be chosen. You are no longer the one refreshing your phone, desperate for validation. That old self, the explainer, the defender, the one begging for scraps of respect, has died. In its place rises someone far more dangerous. You are no longer a passive participant in the game of human attention. You are the engineer of craving, the architect of obsession. You have stepped out of the role of servant and into the role of master. This is not manipulation. It is mastery. Mastery over your presence, your silence, your absence, your mystery. The average person leaks themselves into the world without restraint, exposing every thought, every feeling, every detail, until they become common. You, in contrast, learn to hold, to withhold strategically, to deny just enough to carve a void in the mind of others. a void they cannot help but fill with obsession. Your power lies not in what you give, but in what you subtract. Every silence, every unanswered question, every fragment of story withheld becomes a seed planted deep in their subconscious, and those seeds sprout into cravings they cannot explain. When you begin to apply these principles ruthlessly, you will feel the shift almost instantly. People will lean toward you without understanding why. They will replay your words, but more importantly, they will replay your silences. They will study your absences as if they contained secret meanings. They will crave your presence, even when you have done nothing but withdraw. That is the paradox. You stop chasing, and suddenly the world begins to chase you. But the transformation is not external. It begins within. The true shift is internal. You start to see yourself differently, not as abundant, but as scarce, not as disposable, but as valuable, not as common, but as
untouchable. And that self-perception radiates outward like fire, forcing others to adopt it without resistance. You become the scarce commodity in every room. You become the incomplete story in every heart. And in time you will understand the ultimate law. Obsession is not granted. It is engineered. And the engineer of obsession always holds power.
This is your threshold. The line in the sand where you bury the explainer, the defender, the disposable version of yourself. From this moment, you are not here to be understood. You are here to be remembered. And the one remembered is always the one obsessed over. Subscribe now to Curiosity to Wisdom, because here we do not chase love, we build power. We do not beg for attention, we engineer obsession. And remember this final law, the one you must carry like a weapon. They cannot escape what they cannot finish. They cannot forget what they cannot own. Be the unsolved, the